good.
All right, I'd like to call this planning board meeting to order for Thursday, June 18th, at 6:30 PM. It is a remote meeting. Kathy is our secretary, and in accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law 30A, Section 20, relating to the 2020 novel coronavirus outbreak emergency, the June 18th, 2020 public meeting of the planning board shall be physically closed to the public to avoid group congregation. However, to view this meeting in progress, please go to facebook.com/lakecam. You do not need to Facebook account to view the meeting. This meeting will be recorded and available to be viewed later date at www.lakecam.tv/. So the first item on our agenda is to reorganize the board. And so item one would be to elect a chairman. Would there be any discussion on that?
Peter, do you have discussion on that?
No, I'd like to make a motion that Mark Knox be our, chairman for the upcoming year, and unless somebody had an objection to that.
Okay,
I have no objection and I would accept the responsibilities, but that's not a second.
Second.
well, I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, Peter and Barbara. And I'd like to call a roll call vote, starting with Peter.
Aye, Peter.
Aye, Barbara.
Barbara,
Yep. Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
and I would also vote in the affirmative. The second motion, second item on the agenda is to elect a vice chair. Any discussion on that?
Peter, Michelle? Do you guys
Thoughts?
have any comments?
Well, how do you feel about it, Barbara?
I'm happy to do it. What's the plan with Brian? What are you going to be doing? Are you going to be able to step in and provide guidance?
Yes, there's going to be, when I saw you last night
Yeah.
at the election,
Mhm.
I was speaking with Rich LaCamera. Rich LaCamera informed me that how it has to work is the selectmen and the planning board will have a meeting together, or as like a Zoom meeting together, and they would discuss anybody who has offered their services to the planning board as a member in replace of Zink. And then they would consider, you folks also would consider the different candidates, and you would select, make recommendations, and then it would be a vote among the selectmen and the planning board.
Okay.
And I wasn't made aware of that until last night. From what I heard before, is they said they would like me to stay on. Well, they would like me to stay on, but I guess it's gonna,
Okay.
So would, to speak to both sides of that, Barbara, I think that I would recommend you as the vice chair. Brian has agreed, and when I talked to him earlier, I kind of used my Conservation Commission experience to say how important it was. There are two members on that board that have been there. One's 45 years and one's 30 years.
Mhm.
And so when things come up in the past, it's so helpful to have somebody that has that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that being said, I think moving forward, you should be the vice chair. Brian should be recommended to stay on the board as a member. So we have that guidance and history and you know, if every once in a while we need to be straightened out because we're doing something wrong, he's here, but it gives him a little bit of license. He was considering retiring from the board, take a little responsibility away from him. And still, our recommendation to the selectmen, I think, to keep him on the board I think that would speak volumes if we do reorganize and recommend he stay.
Okay. So one of the things that I feel the tremendous loss of Zink, because he had so much knowledge on the procedural side, as Brian does as well, and on the engineering side. You know, I'm happy to serve in any capacity that will be functional for the board and for the community. I just want to pay respect to the 25 years of service that Brian's had and make sure that, you know, he's very comfortable. And if that were the case, then I would take on whatever responsibility y'all needed.
Thank you, Barbara.
Yeah, agreed. We do appreciate your service at the town, Brian. I know I went in front of the board about 20 years ago with my Crooked Lane property. You were there, and that's a long time to serve in a public position for it's kind of a thankless job. And after doing this for a few years, I can't thank you enough, because it is thankless in so many ways. When you go home at night after doing it,
Right.
you realize it is you're a punching bag for the town.
There's a lot to
Absolutely.
know. There's a lot to know, you know. A lot of procedures, a lot of history. So
So that being said, I would make a motion to nominate Barbara to be the vice chair.
I would second that.
All right, I'm going to call a roll call vote, starting with Peter.
Pete, aye.
Barbara,
I,
Michelle,
Aye.
and Mark, myself, aye. Affirmative, so both motions carry unanimously. I did put a few other items on the agenda tonight. Kathy, I think we need to post something that the planning board has presence at the town meeting.
Yeah,
So I just wanted to make mention of that, so that gets properly posted, because you're so instrumental in that happening for the board.
yeah, technically, I had gone to a training and council says that's really not required unless you're meeting, but it just seems like it's the town policy, so I'll just stick with the policy. But just in case, so you know, if it's ever forgotten, it's nothing horrible. It's
Yep,
Okay.
I
not a big deal.
agree with that. I just saw the email today from Tracy, and I figured
Yeah.
I'll mention it tonight, and enough
Is
said.
that-
Yeah, I talked to her today too, so I said I will take care of that tomorrow.
Super.
when we post that, is that the $175 charge we see from the Standard Times?
No,
Or is
no,
that's only for public hearing?
that's the town website that Kathy's posting that on, so everybody
Yeah.
knows.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Can I just offer a little bit of knowledge? Quite often, we never posted a meeting unless we needed to bring something up in front of our board during a town meeting night, or if we had to meet with the selectmen specifically for something on a town meeting night. Even though we all used to go and we used to sit in the same general area in the auditorium, we didn't post ourselves a meeting unless it was specifically required for a certain thing we were going to review.
Okay. I'm told that there is at least one zoning item that would need to be read at town meeting by a planning board member. I would be happy to do one. If there is more than one, Barbara, would you do the second one?
Yep.
Okay. Kathy, do we have any of those draft motions that we need to read at town meeting yet?
Not that I'm aware of. I think that would come from the selectman's office.
Okay. So I'm going to let that go into the next item we have. Is we've been invited to a selectmen's meeting to kind of join them on Monday. I think it's at 6 p.m. They wanted us to be present because the Lakeville Hospital property is going to come in front of them with the developer and they just wanted us to be present. This is going to be one of those 43B expedited permitting processes. We're going to need to, all boards in town, put one member forward in order to kind of create a board or a coalition of all boards to communicate to do this expedited permitting process. So if everybody could attend that meeting, it would be good. I don't think it's mandatory, but if you can't watch it, or if you can't be present, try to watch it after the fact, because I know 6 o'clock's a little early. And it's a different night than we normally do. Would anybody else like to add anything to those items?
Do we not see anything about the 43B until that night? Will we have anything to read or look through?
I can actually ask Nate to send something to all the board members. I think he may have sent me something months ago. So I'm sure we can get something, but it's a preliminary, it's not our site plan review. This is just the first meeting with the developer. So they're kind of,
Okay.
show ponies little presentation to,
All right.
They will
And
be
wait.
they will be presenting to you, you're the PAA. Right, for the 43B?
This is a B or an R. It's a 43B.
Oh,
correct?
43B, so that's going to the state.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
yeah, it's some state guideline that says normally we have 1 year to permit a project, but it cuts it down to 3 to 6 months. So we have to be able to get it through all the boards quicker.
Right.
That's why they're trying to create communication between all the boards with, say, I don't know, we would just vote on a member, just
Right.
like we did master plan or whatever. So one member from every board is going to join this 43B expedited permitting. I don't want to call it a board, but
Can someone speak to
Committee.
the difference between, I'm obviously familiar with a 40B and a 40R, but I'm not familiar with 43B.
this is not like a low income something. It's a speedy permitting process.
For housing?
It has to do with that development overlay. It only goes, no, it's not housing.
It's not housing.
It has to do with the overlay that the town did on the hospital property.
Yep, mixed use.
Yeah, it has to
Yep.
do with that. And the state said somehow they tied a 43B expedited permitting process to those to help get them developed more quickly.
But
Okay,
there's no housing in it, Mark?
I don't believe so. Not at least with the developer that's coming in
Huh.
there.
okay.
Oh, now I have to see what this is, huh?
I will, and I have to tell you, I'm a little disappointed from the state's perspective because a couple years ago, I reached out on behalf of planning board to ask them if they had any help for us with that project, and it was like, crickets, nothing. And now we're talking about an expedited permitting process. I'll have to really look into that. That's interesting. I didn't realize there was that option. I'll look into it.
Yeah, so that's just something we're gonna face, but if everybody can attend the selectmen's meeting on Monday, that'd be good. And after that, I think we'll have to pick a member to go into that committee, I guess is a good word to call it, for the expedited permitting. So the last item that I put on the agenda, Kathy just sent out something. It was to approve an invoice for South Coast Media for $455.80.
I don't have any objection with approving it. I'll make a motion to approve. But before I do that, I want to ask the question. This wasn't in our budget, right? These costs aren't in our budget. Should they be in our budget next year?
They come out from the agency fees. You don't have a line item for advertising. And that's something, I keep mentioning to the board, how you should have your budget drawn out with specific line items, but it just doesn't seem to be, going through to the selectmen. They're just kind of keeping it this way. So there's
Okay.
a specific advertising budget for the planning board.
So from a business perspective, typically when you're going to approve something, it's because it's already been an anticipated expense. So I think it should be on our budget. If we're approving the expense, it should be, I mean, Mark, you own business. You know, how do they do it in your business?
We don't get it unless we can afford it. To speak to that, I know the town, even on conservation, we weren't allowed to buy paper. All the stuff kind of went through the town checkbook. It's handled very remotely, I guess is a good way to put it. They really don't give us a budget, so we don't have a budget, but the town sort of covers those things.
Yeah.
Whether it be through the fees, through the application process that developers pay. But I think it's so that one board doesn't become a revenue stream for themselves.
So can I ask a question of this? Some of this is for advertising for Pauline's Path, is that right? Or none of this?
No, this is just for the,
The floodplain.
yes, the floodplain district.
Okay,
So it's
we had-
a town expense. They're trying to put it on our
Yep.
budget, so to speak, or us to be responsible for it, which our board is, but we don't have a budget. So I think it's just we rubber stamp this through and the town's got to write the check somehow.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve. Maybe next year we can take it up when it's time for budget. We'll keep track of these costs and be able to add it in.
Is that something
second.
that, one other discussion. So Kathy,
Yep,
the way that you had said, we bring this to the selectmen as part of a budget, not wanting to get into a big discussion with the selectmen about it, but is there a way that you can give us a spreadsheet either annually or semi-annually that's kind of reflects how the monies get spent that we're approving?
I can do that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be helpful to see, just so we can, if we do have to discuss budget, we have some hard numbers of this is what gets spent through the planning board annually.
Yeah, because it's hard to track your expenses if they don't come from your budget, if they're coming from the selectmen's budget, you know.
Yep.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the South Coast Media Bill. So I'm going to do a roll call vote. Peter?
Aye, Pete.
Barbara?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
And Mark? Aye. Motion passes unanimously to approve the South Coast Media invoice for $455.80. I think that's it. Do you have anything else that we'd like to talk about tonight, Kathy?
Just the one thing now, so do you want me to put that on the agenda to pick a member for that 43B committee?
Let's say tentatively put it there because
Okay,
next Thursday.
yep,
But I think we probably want to talk with the selectmen on Monday to maybe bring that up at that meeting. Not that it's our agenda, but just ask them about it. But yeah, keep it on our agenda, but we may move it around depending on the results of the selectmen meeting.
okay, so I'll, because I have to revise it anyway, so I'll put something on to that.
Very-
At that meeting, you folks might want to consider what they want to do if they're going to take the overlay district off.
Okay.
Would the town do that or the state? The town would need to.
No, the town would have to vote for that at town meeting.
Should be
I would
a law.
imagine if it's part of chapter 40B, the state gets to do whatever they like.
No,
They
it's, there's a zoned overlay district over the hospital property
Right?
that's not, so I believe what they're asking you to do is to take the overlay district off.
Uh,
And if you're taking the overlay district off, what happens is the property goes back to its existing zoning below.
No way. Yeah, okay.
It's just something to look at.
Yeah. Well,
You might want to look at the hospital property zoning and the,
Yeah.
you know, the Lakeville bylaws.
That's a great point, and I think those are all things, I don't think we're expected to make any binding votes at this meeting. It's just informational for us to
mhm.
be out in front of the curve on this
Right.
developer and what they want to do. So that being said, to what Brian said. Let's try to educate ourselves on that between now and then. So at our next meeting, we're a little bit more prepared if we do need to make a vote on something.
And just be knowledgeable that you have something they want.
Right.
If they want to take the overlay district off the zoning, off of their parcel, whatever. I think it would have to come off of the whole thing, not just part of it.
Yeah, you're right. Which affects other people, and I don't think that's something that we should make that decision with a broad sweeping brush, where there's other people now that have been purchasing property based on a current zoning.
Right.
So, good point.
Okay.
All right, I look forward to seeing everybody on Monday, and I'm gonna throw a motion to adjourn out.
Oh, one
Hey,
more
Mark.
thing.
Sorry.
I'll put those bills out there, and there's also a paper from the clerks, the one that you have to sign after the election for the Registry of Deeds.
Okay, so you need us to stop by and sign plans?
No, it's not a plan. It's just that bill, and then it's a sheet from the clerk's office.
Okay.
It's
Oh, we have to sign. Okay.
so that they have that at the registry. Your signature's on file.
Okay.
Kathy, you got my voicemail last night, correct?
I did. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mark, I think we should acknowledge our new team member, Michelle. How do you say your last name again?
McEachran.
McEachran. I was a little late to joining the call, so maybe you guys already did all the introductions, but for people that don't know, she is our newly elected planning board member. So welcome.
Yeah, congratulations as well.
I look forward to working with you, and I have a lot to learn.
We all do.
Thank you. So a motion to adjourn. Do I
So
have a-
moved.
I'll second it.
All right, roll call vote. Peter,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Michelle?
Bye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously, and we'll see you on Monday, and if not, on Thursday next week. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Everybody next.